I kept waiting for a church to open up. Nothing did open up. But then finally, a church in Charleston, South Carolina, that I had candidated at over a year before that time, they contacted me and asked me to come and pastor the church. They said, "You don't need to come back and candidate, we'll just take you."
There you go.
Well, I'd rather go and talk things over. So I went to Charleston, South Carolina, and spoke with the deacons. They had 3 deacons, 3 good men, and it was a small mission church. And I preached, and they called me to be the pastor there. And so soon Betty and I were moving from Vanceboro, North Carolina to Charleston, South Carolina. They rented a house for us, a nice brick home, and we began the ministry in Charleston. Well, the Lord especially blessed the ministry. There were a lot of Air Force, Navy personnel in that community. We saw some trust Christ as Savior. We saw the church grow. However, on the long weekends, like like Memorial Day or July the 4th weekends, it looked like about half the church would just take off and go back home. And then back home was Florence, South Carolina, or those areas. But we just kept on keeping on. And I remember Guy Owens had a very fruitful ministry, radio ministry in Florence, South Carolina. I listened to his radio broadcast. And so I began to pray about getting a radio broadcast. So I went downtown to this small radio station and talked with the manager, the owner, about beginning a radio ministry. And he said, "Yes, sir, I'd be glad to work with you." Well, I started out Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I believe it was. And then there was a new church getting started in the area. Dr. Otis Holmes was beginning a church. So he said, "Well, Dennis, let me take Thursday and Friday," which he did. So we had this ministry, and people were listening to us. You could tell that. But then Dr. Holmes decided to stop his Tuesday and Thursday ministry, and I continued, and I said, "Well, I'll just take Monday through Friday." But I had to raise $300 a month to pay for that radio time. Well, with the church that I was pastoring, with contributions, with a few other churches, the Lord every month sent that money in. Now, I would study diligently, like if I was preaching from the book of Ephesians or the book of Philippians, I would study and write out my sermons, word for word. And then there were some people in the church that would type those sermons for me. So I would conduct the radio ministry, and it lasted, I think, about 13, 14, 15 minutes. And the Lord blessed that ministry, really did.